Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back once again to our ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pushtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we are continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love. As we've mentioned numerous times, this series is meant to help us awaken our love for the divine couple, Shri Radha and Krishna. Of course, this is a very deep subject matter, but it's one that Srila Prabhupada has actually prepared us for. We should note that one of his very first books that he gave us at the beginning of the movement was Nectar of Devotion, which is a summary study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami, who is our Rasa Acharya. There's a beautiful prayer to Rupa Goswami composed by my friend Hari Prasad Das. He did it in last January. Chiteri nam kritam yena prema varshai rasha plutam tam gaurav nava sampushtam bande rupa gana ganam. By manifesting showers of prema, he, Rupa, inundated the barren soil of the heart with rasa. I offer my humble obeisances to that rain cloud named Rupa, who has been well nourished by an ocean named Gaura. Also, in giving us the Krishna book, its full name is actually Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is a summary of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which Prabhupada gave us at the beginning of the movement as well. He was again pointing us to achieving a deeper understanding of Krishna consciousness. We often say Prabhupada gave us everything, but he gave us everything in the very beginning. He writes in Krishna book on page 46, he writes, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given us a transcendental literary work entitled Krishna Bhavanamrita, which is full with Krishna's pastimes. Exalted devotees can remain absorbed in Krishna thought by reading such books. Any book of Krishna Lila, even this book, Krishna, or our teachings of Lord Chaitanya, is actually solace for devotees feeling separation, vipralambha bhav, from Krishna. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Actually, if you were shipwrecked on an island in the Pacific Ocean, and all you had to read was the Krishna book, you could come to the highest stage of vipralambha bhav, feeling separation from Radha and Krishna. Now that's a very powerful statement. But my godbrother, Shrutakirti Prabhu, who was Srila Prabhupada's personal servant for many years, recounted one time how he went into Srila Prabhupada's room and he saw Srila Prabhupada was reading Krishna book. At that moment, Srila Prabhupada looked up and he said, if you just read this one book, you can become Krishna conscious. You don't have to read hundreds of books, just this one book. Then Prabhupada said, you don't even have to read the whole book, just one chapter. If you read just one chapter of this book, you can become Krishna conscious. So Shrutakirti Prabhu, he just nodded his head and said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. But Prabhupada continued. Still looking at Shrutakirti, he said, you don't even have to read the whole chapter, just one page. You don't even have to read the whole page, just one line. Then Prabhupada paused and he said, you don't even have to read a whole line, just one word. Just one word of this book. If you read it, you can become Krishna conscious, because Krishna is present in every word. Because Krishna is present in every word. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So with that, we can understand how can I say, powerfully purifying is this process which Srila Prabhupada has handed to us. One time he actually said, "Here is Krishna, take him." And I'd like to share a story in this connection, how we've been given so much, everything actually, that my dear god sister Yamuna Devi once recounted. She described how one time she was traveling with Srila Prabhupada as his cook in India, along with their husband Gurudas, and another couple, Shyamasundar Prabhu and Malati Dasi. And Shyamasundar and Malati had a daughter named Saraswati, who at that time was about 4 years old. And it's quite famous, actually. Saraswati would go up to big Indian life members and ask them, "Do you know who Krishna is? Do you know who Krishna is?" And they would just look at her, and she would say, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead." And they would become very charmed. Srila Prabhupada was actually very fond of her, and he once said to her, "Saraswati, whatever realization you have, you can preach." So one day, one very wealthy life member was so touched by this encounter with little Saraswati, "Do you know who Krishna is? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead," that he said, "I have a gift for you, Saraswati." And he handed her a pure silver deity of Krishna. And Saraswati kept that deity on a table in the apartment they were living in at that time, and she would offer him flowers every day with lots of devotion. Then one day Srila Prabhupada visited Shyamasundar and Malati, and seeing that silver deity, he inquired about him, like, where did he come from? And Malati explained that a life member had given the silver deity to Saraswati. So Srila Prabhupada said, "But this is India. This deity is worth more than some people here make in a lifetime. Someone will steal it." So Malati asked Srila Prabhupada, "What should we do?" So Prabhupada said, "When Saraswati is sleeping, take a mold of the deity and then make another one from brass. Then lock the silver deity away." So it took a week or so for them to do it. And on the morning that the silver Krishna was replaced with the brass Krishna, and Saraswati saw the brass Krishna, she said to her mother, "Where is my Krishna? Where is my Krishna?" And Malati said, "Your Krishna is here." But Saraswati started to cry. And she said, "No, he's not my Krishna. Where is my Krishna? I want my Krishna." And this went on for a few days. So much so that Malati and Shyamasundar were so disturbed that they were not able to serve Srila Prabhupada properly. So they went to see Prabhupada, and they told him the whole story. And Srila Prabhupada said to them, "Please call Saraswati here." So they went to get her. And when she came into Srila Prabhupada's room, he asked her, "Saraswati, what is the problem?" And she replied, "I want my Krishna. I want my Krishna." So Prabhupada said, "That is very good, because the great devotees never say, 'I have Krishna.' They always say, 'I want Krishna.'" Then he said, "Do you want me to teach you a song about that, Saraswati?" And she said, "Yes." So Srila Prabhupada sat down with a harmonium, and he started to sing the prayers to the 6 Goswamis, the Sad Goswami Ashtakam by Srinivasacharya. And after he sang the line, "Hey Radhe Brajadevike Chalite, Hey Nanda Shunu Kuta," which means the 6 Goswamis were chanting very loudly everywhere in Vrindavan, shouting, "Queen of Vrindavan, Radharani, O Lalita, O son of Nanda Maharaj, where are you all now? Are you just on the hill of Govardhan, or are you under the trees on the banks of the Jamuna? Where are you? And then he stopped, and he said to Saraswati, the 6 Goswamis were great devotees who wandered on the banks of the Jamuna, asking, where is Krishna? Where is Radha? This is the higher stage of Krishna consciousness. Now, Yamuna said, hearing that, how Saraswati became, completely pacified, because she was pacified. Yamuna later said, when I saw Srila Prabhupada explaining the highest subject to this young child to pacify her, the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. Jai Yamuna Devi Dasi, Jai Srila Prabhupada. So under Srila Prabhupada's guidance and blessings, we may discuss these wonderful leelas, deep leelas of the Lord, with the hope that we may one day awaken our love for Radha and Krishna. That is there, how could you say, waiting in our hearts, waiting to be awoken. So today in our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, we'll continue with the theme of flowers. Flowers, and this will be part 12. Now in the last 2 sessions we discussed Kadamba flowers. But today I'd like to discuss the role roses play in Krishna's loving pastimes. I was reading that in our Western culture, although a variety of flowers are used to express different feelings and different emotions, roses are actually the most popular way to say, I love you, I'm sorry, or thank you. You give some roses, I love you. Or I'm really sorry, or thank you. And depending on one's choice of color and arrangement, florists, I did some research, florists, they say red roses represent love and passion, white roses, innocence and spirituality, yellow roses, warmth, friendship and joy, pink roses, gratitude, elegance and sweetness, orange roses, pride, energy, and intense desire, blue roses, secret love, mystery, and uniqueness. Lavender roses represent love at first sight, wonder and enchantment, and black roses, end of a relationship, change and courage. And also I was reading, roses are possibly one of the oldest flowers known to man. There are rose fossils that date back 35 million years. And the oldest, this is interesting, the oldest living rose, meaning the rose plant that's living, is 1,000 years old. And it lives, at the base of a castle in Germany. It's called the Cathedral of Hildesheim or Scheim, I'm not so good at German, in Germany. And it was planted in the early 800s, not 1800s, the early 800s, when that's actually a church, when that church was founded, and still continues to bud and bloom each year. Can you imagine 1,000 years? Producing pale pink flowers once a year, usually around May. Other interesting facts about roses are that all varieties of roses are edible. And the national flower for England is a rose. And Ecuador is one of the world's largest suppliers of roses, with an astonishing 54% of the land filled with rose bushes. Of course, the rose is much more glorious in the spiritual world, in Goloka Vrindavan, where it is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. In Sanskrit, a rose flower is known, I was reading, by many different names. Japa, Java, Java Pushpam, Hena Pushpam, Odra Pushpam, Kantak, Adya, and Patalam. Patalam. And in Vrindavan here, where again I'm so fortunate to be, in Vrindavan there's many types of roses, such as light pink roses, dark pink roses, red roses. I've seen roses with pink and white colors all mixed together. And roses that are soft and fragrant are usually red in color. However, as everyone knows, all roses have thorns on their stems. Now, there was a poet named Vidyapati, famous. He was from the Awadh region of India. He lived from 1342 to 1488, Vidyapati. And actually, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions him in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Adi Leela 1342. He writes, Vidyapati Jayadev Chandi Dashera Gita Ashvadena Ramananda Swarupsa Hita, Bengali. The translation is, Lord Chaitanya used to read the books of Vidyapati, Jayadev and Chandidas, relishing their songs with his confidential associates like Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar Goswami. Now, in one of his poems that I found, Vidyapati uses the analogy of a thorny rosebush in describing Sri Radha's love for Krishna. It's so sweet. He writes, O beloved friend of mine, Sri Radha says to her friend that the path of love is like a garden of roses, full of nectar, beauty, and satisfaction. But once you enter into the garden of love, your clothes, respect, skin, attachment, and hair, ego, will be hurt by the sacrifices of love, which are like the thorns of roses. Vidyapati says, O friend of mine, therefore I warn you, come to the garden of divine love, filled with roses, at your own risk. Isn't that nice? Vidyapati. Now, roses in Vrindavan, they grow the whole year around, actually. But the most beautiful roses blossom in the month of Chaitra. It's coming soon, March, April. Now, another renowned poet, Brajbasi poet, his name was Gyanasham, we've quoted him a few times, who lived around 200 years ago. He writes very beautifully. Collecting tender, sweet little roses, filled with color and fragrance, the gopis roam around Braj. They filter the nectar and color from the roses and add drops of sesame seed oil to make lali, L-A-L-I, a red balm. Then they take a small bud of a rose and apply that red balm onto Sri Radha's lips. Gyanasham sings the glories of Sri Radha, who enchants the eyes of Krishna. The lipstick they put on like that. Gyanasham sings the glories of Sri Radha, who enchants the eyes of Sri Krishna. Now, the following pastime, containing some glories of roses in Krishna's pastimes, is from Vidagda-Madhava, Act 2, by Rupa Goswami. He actually goes into great detail, great poetic detail. So if you have a copy of Vidagda-Madhava, you can read the whole detailed pastime there. I'm just going to summarize it as it is, but like a summary. So one day while Rupa Goswami was writing Vidagda-Madhava, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu suddenly appeared in his kutir, his bhajan kutir. And the Lord inquired from Rupa, Rupa, what kind of book are you writing? So Sri Rupa Goswami, he held up a palm leaf that was a page of the manuscript of Vidagda-Madhava. And when Lord Chaitanya saw the fine handwriting of Rupa Goswami, his mind was very pleased. And being pleased, the Lord praised the handwriting there in Vidagda-Madhava by saying, the handwriting of Rupa is just like rows of pearls. Famous. The handwriting of Rupa is just like rows of pearls. So, in a part of the book, we hear about a place in Vrindavan called Prashkandana Tirtha. Prashkandana Tirtha, which in Krishna's time was famous for its gardens of wild roses. Actually, it was known really as the foremost rose forest, more like a rose forest in Vrindavan. And it's described, Rupa describes it as naturally a very aromatic place. You can imagine walking into a garden of fragrant roses, a very aromatic place. And even today, many gardeners have their flower gardens in this area of Prashkandana Tirtha, here in Vrindavan, where they grow these famous roses which are strung into garlands for all the beautiful deities here in Vrindavan. So, in Vidagda-Madhava, Rupa Goswami mentions that at the time of Krishna's fight, he describes it as a battle with the Kaliya serpent, Srimati Radharani and Krishna had not met yet. Rupa says that. At the time of when Krishna fought with the Kaliya serpent, Radha and Krishna had not met yet. But he writes that their attachment to each other was soon to bring about their first meeting in the rose gardens of secluded Prashkandana Tirtha. Now, a note here is that Radharani had just married Abhimanyu, just to increase the intensity of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. It's all on the transcendental platform. Abhimanyu is described as a dull cowherd boy, but he's actually the Krishna's shadow, the shadow of Krishna. Anyway, but unable to restrain her, her attachment to Krishna, she finally expressed her feelings to him in a letter. She wrote a letter to Krishna, just revealing her heart, how much she loves him, which she gave to Lalita and Vishaka to give to Krishna. So those two Sakhis, they went and they found Krishna with Madhu Mangal, who were herding cows with the cowherd boys in a pasture some distance away. And Lalita placed the letter in Madhu's hand, Madhu Mangal's hand, and she said, Varshana's princess has sent this to Krishna. Varsana's princess has sent this to Krishna. So turning to Krishna, Madhu Mangal, he joked, of what value is a letter? Better to have received some sweets. Of what value is a letter? He's funny, Madhu Mangal attached to sweets. Better, they gave us some sweets. But Krishna was eager to know what Radharani had written to him. This is all in Vidagda-Madhava. So he said, read it anyway, Madhu. So, it's described as Madhu Mangal unrolled the letter. His eyes opened very wide in surprise as he read Radha's letter out loud to Krishna. Radharani wrote, O dearly beautiful one, the artistic loveliness of your picture is now impressed within my mind. Since you are now living within my mind, wherever I wish to run, being agitated by impressions of you, I find that you, O my friend, are blocking my way. So after hearing Madhu reread the letter, because Krishna said read it again, Krishna thought to himself, it's a particular mood here, saintly housewives of Radha's caliber never transgress strict moral codes. Purnamasi's arranged all this. Saintly housewives of Radha's caliber never transgress strict moral codes. This letter must be a sign of great love, therefore. So Krishna was actually happy to receive such a letter, but he pretended to be disinterested. He pretended to be disinterested in front of Lalita and Vishaka. So he said, Madhu, why should I, who am averse to even hearing about women, be polluted by the conduct of such a loose girl? Strong words. I will complain to the elders of this village about this. He was just, trying to tease Lalita and Vishaka. So taking Krishna's cue, Madhu Mangal, he added very sternly, O king of the brahmacharis, O king of the brahmacharis, listen. While you reprimand these brazen gopis, I will go to Mother Yasoda and relate everything that has happened here. Beginning with Sri Radha's shameful, irreligious conduct. How unforgivable. Rupa Goswamis. So Krishna added, actually, Radha has never seen me, nor have I seen her. This letter must be intended for some other cowherd boy who has captured her heart. So at this point, Lalita and Vishaka, they couldn't believe their ears. What was Krishna saying? So Vishaka, so sweet, she said in a very appealing way, Krishna, by the same power with which you lifted Govardhan Hill, you have stolen the heart of a saintly gopi, a gopi who now appeals to you and to no one else. And Lalita, she chipped in, Krishna, you are the happiness of Braj. I love that. Krishna, you are the happiness of Braj. How can you make this poor girl suffer? So Krishna, in the same mood, teasing everyone, he replied, my Brahmana friend Madhu Mangal does not tolerate any deviation from the path of piety, girls. So Lalita was dumbfounded. After all the sweet smiles, Krishna had actually sent Sri Radha's way, Purvarag, before they meet. Purvarag means there's loving pastimes going on, but it's mostly glances. As Krishna leaves Nanda Gaon to take care of the cows with Malaram, he passes by the gopis and there's these sidelong glances. Krishna looks at Radha and Radha looks at Krishna. So after all the sweet smiles Krishna had sent Radha's way, how could he be so indifferent? How could he be so indifferent? Lalita was just dumbfounded, thinking like this. So visibly upset, Lalita and Vishaka just stormed off. Now here's the interesting thing. Suddenly, Madhu Mangal, he had a change of heart. We don't usually hear like that. He's Krishna's little Brahmin cowherd boy, and So suddenly Madhu Mangal had a change of heart. And turning to Krishna, he said, Krishna, Radha obviously adores you. Why didn't you reciprocate with her love? Why did you say things, how did he put it, that will build a staircase leading to the top of a mountain of regret? Such poetry. So pausing for a moment, Krishna replied, he had a change of heart too. My dear friend, you are right. It was cruel of me to mock her. And reflecting on his misbehavior, Krishna concluded that he had gone too far. And he thought, upon hearing of my cruelty, moon-faced Radharani, she might turn against me, or she might even give up her life. So Madhu Mangal, he said, what do we do now? So Krishna replied, there's only one thing to do. Answer Radharani's letter with a letter of my own. So Madhu kind of looked around, he said, what will you write a letter on? So Krishna replied, with the help of rose petals. Having turned her away, their scent may help bring her back to me. He said, with the help of rose petals, I'll write her a letter. And having turned her away, their scent may help bring her back to me. So Madhu Mangal, he clapped in approval. And he said then, why don't we go to nearby Pashkandana Tirtha? I described it earlier, a forest of roses. And Madhu said, those roses will be very happy to serve your purpose. Again, remember, everything in Braj is personal. Love reigns supreme in the spiritual world. There's so much love because everything is personal. So he said that those roses in that forest will be very happy to serve your purpose. So meanwhile, Lalita and Vishaka went to explain to Sri Radha how Krishna had dismissed her letter. And as she did so, hearing these things, tears flowed down Sri Radha's cheeks. So Sri Radha said to Vishaka, of what use is it then? Better that I drown in the waters of the Kaliya lake. Better I just drown in the waters of the Kaliya lake. Even though Krishna has rejected me, the hostile and insatiable hope to attain him still burns within me. O mind, she's addressing her mind, O mind, the deep water of the Jamuna, the sister of the king of death, Yamaraj, is my only shelter now. Wow. So off they went to the Kaliya lake. She's thinking, Vishaka's hoping she won't do it, but this is just a mood that Vrinda and Purnamasi have set for that day because they establish all these pastimes in the morning, every morning in Vrindavan. So on the way to the Kaliya lake, they passed by the rose garden, Prashkandana Tirtha, because it's actually in that area. At which, they're coming to this beautiful flowering rose forest. And Vishaka tries to cheer Sri Radha up by saying, Sri Radha, can you smell those beautiful roses? Let's pick some to make rose water. So they stopped. And lo and behold, just at that moment, Madhu Mangal and Krishna arrived with their plan to become specific here, Rupa says, to press rose petals into oil to use as a writing material for a love letter to Radha. To press rose petals into oil to use as a writing material, substance, ink, for a love letter to Radha. Now as Madhu Mangal and Krishna approached the garden, they saw Radharani along with Lalita and Vishaka. So what they did is they stopped and they hid behind a tree to listen to what these gopis were talking about, these three gopis. And watching very carefully, they saw Sri Radha suddenly raise her arms, her hands into the air, saying, "O Krishna, O killer of Putana, is it right of you to have forced me into becoming so much attracted to you and then to neglect me?" So turning to Vishaka, she said, "Perhaps I'll just die of grief. If so, Vishaka, please do one thing for me. To observe my funeral ceremony, place my body with its arms embracing a tamal tree, like creepers, so that I may remain forever in Vrindavan, undisturbed. This is my last request. My last request." But then Radharani paused and she thought, but if I die, I will never see Krishna again, whose face is like the moon, she was thinking, and who enchants the three worlds. So at this point, her heart suddenly filled with a longing for Krishna. And she said, "Friend, will you kindly show me his picture again?" So Vishaka said, "But Sri Radha, I have no tools to paint here. How can I draw you a picture?" So sitting down in the pose of a yogini, Srimati Radharani, she sat down in the pose of the asana, like a yogini. She said, "Then I will make him appear by my meditation. I will make Krishna appear by my meditation." Now, seeing Radha in this desperate situation, Krishna could no longer restrain himself. And he stepped out from behind the tree, his hiding place, which was pretty nearby. And seeing him, Vishaka was pleasantly surprised. And smiling, she said to Sri Radha, "My dearest friend, I think you should open your eyes now and taste the fruit of your meditation. Open your eyes now and taste the fruit of your meditation." So Srimati Radharani opened her eyes and she just gazed at Krishna before her. She was mesmerized. And Rupa writes, she whispered to herself, "O my broken heart, good fortune has truly smiled upon you and made you whole again." Addressing her heart, made you whole again. So Krishna was just about to take Sri Radha's hand when a terrible voice pierced the air. Who could that be from? It was Jatila, Radharani's mother-in-law, who's always trying to find Radha and Krishna together. Jatila, running up through the rose bushes, screaming, "What is Krishna doing here? What is Krishna doing here?" Now, seeing this very quick change in the plot, this turn of events, Vishaka thought, oh, just as the chakora bird was about to drink the sweet rays of moonlight, a mass of dark clouds has covered the moon. So coming forward, Jatila said to Krishna, "You rascal, why have you come here?" And Krishna replied, "For the same reason as your daughter-in-law, to appreciate the beauty of these roses." And seeing this all unfold before her, Sri Radha said to Vishaka, "Oh my friend, after such a long time, I finally had the chance to enjoy pastimes with Krishna. But alas, wicked fate has used this old lady as an instrument to stand in my way. How cruel, how very cruel, how cruel, how very cruel." So then Jatila just grasped Srimati Radharani by the arm and said, "Come, daughter, spend not a moment longer with this rascal Krishna." And the two quickly departed for Javat. Leaving Sri Radha, the only option to continue writing letters to Krishna. So the acharyas say that, I was reading, Radha is very fond of and expert at writing letters, especially love letters to Krishna, a fondness that has earned her the name Patra Lekhika. Patra Lekhita earned her that name. So Rupa Goswami recorded this first meeting of sorts of Radha and Krishna at Prashkanta Tirtha, a most beautiful garden of roses in his illustrious Vidagda-Madhava. Now when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, on his visit to Vrindavan, he actually spent time in Prashkanta Tirtha. Prashkanta Tirtha, he spent time there, which I was reading still overflowed with beautiful rose bushes 500 years ago. Hare Krishna. Isn't that a wonderful pastime? Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki. So today we'll finish, as we do, with a beautiful verse from our hero, Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, from his Vrindavan Mahimamrita. It's Sataka 11, text 66. He writes, "O Vrindavan, Sri Radha, decorated with splendid flowers and eclipsing the three worlds, is your beauty. The golden flowering vines are your delicate and splendid limbs. The beautiful lotus is your face. The jasmine flowers are your teeth. The banduka flowers are your lips. The white lotuses are your eyes, and the surrounding twigs are your hands and fingers." Shri Brajabhumi, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jaho. Thank you once again. We'll be back next Friday. I think we'll get a couple more classes with flowers. Let us see. Otherwise, we'll choose another article or item that will help us awaken our love gradually for the divine couple by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Shri Brajabhumi Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radharashama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yajna ki. Share the mercy. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Vimanandi. Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe.